Good morning. Welcome to our Lenten retreat for the year 2022. This retreat is inspired by the book of Mary the Apis, Noon to Nightfall, A Journey Through Midlife. The author tells us that although youth may be a gift of nature, age is indeed a work of art. It cannot be achieved. We have not earned it. It is a gift. Many years ago, we older religious felt God's call to gift our lives to the church, and we responded in faith. Like all other religious, we are consecrated to God. We have grown within the church and belong absolutely to the life and holiness of the church, directing all our efforts to the spread of God's mission. We continue this mission while appreciating the gift of aging, because aging is the ordinary human process that God uses to bring us to Himself. Good morning. I am Father Jerry Kabihe, and I will be your retreat master for today. This is our Lenten retreat for this year. The title of this spiritual exercise is From Noon to Nightfall, a journey through the different stages of the human life. There are no two people exactly alike. Each of us is unique. And God has chosen us in Christ before the world began to be holy and blameless in His sight. That's from the letter of Paul to the Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4. It is through the gifts of the Holy Spirit that we are enabled to make the choices that will help us to be holy and blameless and become the persons God wants us to be. Let me explain the title of this spiritual exercise, Noon to Nightfall, because it has something to do with the sun. The sun. So, the subtitle of this retreat is A Journey Through the Different Stages of Human Life. Here is a picture of the sun, and I would like to make some comparison between the movement of the sun every day, and I would like to make some comparison into our own human life, our personal life. So it says, as the sun rises at dawn, it reaches its peak at noon, and it descends to nightfall. Simple lang ang movement ng sun. But if you try to reflect our own life into the movement of the sun, it has some similarity and meaning. Our lives follow a similar path, one way or another, whether you like it or not. Let us ask ourselves, what is the journey of life? Or what is the journey of our own life? Okay. So, this is the diagram of the 4 stages of human development. Remember, the movement of the sun from noon to nightfall. There are one, two, three, four different stages of life. Four stages by which we go through life. And that movement is a continuous process. Some other people would say life is a continuous experience, or life is a continuous learning experience. So let me explain it to you, these four different stages of our human experience. This diagram would help us guide our way of living, our way of thinking, and our way of relating as we go through the different stages. Okay? So, there is what we call the athletic stage, second, warrior stage, then 3, statement stage, and 4, the spiritual stage. It is very important that we need to not just to adapt, adjust, or to really be conscious or be aware of these different stages, because these different stages that we need to go through is a tool that would guide us into our process of growing up, into our process of maturity as a person. Maybe right at this moment, you feel, oh, it's not for us. I'm still young. I'm still 20 or 30 years old. There's no need for me to go through this process myself. Maybe later. But take note, guys. We are seminarians. We are studying, preparing ourselves for our life in the future. And we are into formation at the moment. In fact, this is the objective of this retreat. While we are in preparation for our life in the future, ordained or ordained, it's very important, primarily, that we need to know the process of our own personal life that needs to go through, ordained or non-ordained. Number 2, we are at the moment preparing ourselves not just by our studies, although that's an essential part of our preparation, but we are preparing ourselves for our life in the ministry in the future. That means to say, we will be reaching out to people. We will be relating, caring, nurturing people. We'll be taking care of people who are sick. We will be taking of people as a community, and so on and so forth. So there is a need for us to be aware, to know, and to understand the different process of one's life experiences, or the development of every stage in life. So it is a must for a seminarian, for all of us, to really prepare ourselves. So first, personal. Second is for our life as ordained ministers later on. Just in case we would not make it to the ordained ministry, you can still use it, celebrate it to yourself, because this particular sharing is a big help to your personal life. As I've said, as you go through life and trying to see forward for growth in your personal life and maturity, this will help us go through that vision or personal vision that we wanted to grow. We wanted to grow more mature in our relationship with God and in our relationship with people. I would like us to know that there is such thing as unfinished business, or some other people would use the term monkey business for those people whose life are into scramble. It is because they fail to prepare and to see their own personal life in the future. We will go to that later on. Let me explain these four stages: athletic stage, warrior stage, statement stage, spiritual stage. According to our age or ages, athletic stage is that stage in life by which we are still a child growing up under the care of our parents or elders. This is from 5 years up to 20 years old. This athletic stage is described by the following terms: infancy, childhood or early childhood experience, adolescent, early adolescent, and then adolescent period, and then our educational attainment, and the early adulthood. I would just like to emphasize the term years or age at 5 years old to 20 years of age. Okay? So the warrior stage, what is it? It is from the age of 20 and 40 years old. Maybe some of you here belongs most on this stage right now. Athletic and the warrior stage. Warrior stage is defined by the following terms again: marriage, settling down, career, business, and concern for sustainability or productivity. So this warrior stage between the age 20 and 40, this is the time where we are into the consciousness of family. And then for some young people, it is also the stage wherein they are into deciding for their own life, either going through a life committed to the church or an institution or an organization, or a life to marriage. It is this time that they need to decide for their life for marriage, settling down, family, establishing business, and so on and so forth. Number three is the statement stage. This is very critical because this is where personal crisis, I've mentioned unfinished business, monkey business, problems in the family, broken homes, broken families, and broken homes, dito siya nagfo-fall. Take note of this, and this is very important. This is very critical. Okay? Critical stage belongs to the ages of 45 to 50 years old. Take note, 50. Hindi ka pa old age at this age, 50. Pero this particular stage is being described by the following. This is the stage where a person needs to look back into his own past, into his own life, and as he look back into his life, this is the time by which he needed to assess his personal life in the context of achievement, fulfillment, the consciousness of the image he has established for the past years in his life. We call it his identity. Dito din mag-start yung mga identity crisis. At dito din yung time by which a person, as he look back into his life and assessing every experiences of his life, dito din yun pumapasok ang achievement, accomplishment. Okay? But take note, dito din mag-start ang tinatawag nating midlife crisis. Midlife midlife crisis. It is a kind of friction. Is the term friction correct? Tension, okay. It's a kind of, at this stage, there is some kind of tension between fulfillment, accomplishment versus personal conflicts, failure, insecurities, loneliness. And because of this conflict o tension, dito na rin mag-start ang, instead of looking forward in preparation for the future, there are some people who cannot just accept the fact that they are already at this stage, so their escape, their cover up has to go back into their own past experiences na hindi nila na-establish during their early stage. Dito papasok ang mga, yes, I've been talking about unfinished business. Dito papasok ang dishonesty. Dito papasok ang broken families, broken promises, and so on and so forth. Okay? So I said, this stage is very critical dahil dito magsisimula ang personal crisis na isang tao. And take note of this, whether you like it or not, lalabas at lalabas ang crisis na ito. Most especially if you have some issues, conflict, woundedness, brokenness from your childhood, that up to this age of 50, you still fail to heal your own woundedness from childhood, dito mag-create siya ng tension. Dito magsimula ang problema personal ng isang tao. Okay? So, as I've said a while ago, it's very important that you need to process your own experience in every stage that you are going through your life. Okay? Tuloy ko lang kunti. So, again, this is characterized by the following. I mentioned a while ago, woundedness and brokenness. Dito rin mag-manifest yung mga broken promises. Either promises sa ordination or promises sa ating spouse. Broken marriage or broken marriages. Okay? And then broken families, loneliness, insecurities, fear of the unknown, and fear of the uncertain. Okay? So, this is very, very important that we take note of this, not just by understanding it through our minds, but it really needs to understand every bit of this stage by the heart. Okay, so itong spiritual stage, ito yung product kung paano mo pinoprocess yung personal crisis mo, paano mo siya dinadala, paano mo na-overcome ang different crisis na pinagdaanan mo. This stage, last number 4 stage, is what we call as the spiritual stage. Ito yung stage wherein we develop acceptance of ourselves, acceptance of what has been happening into our life, and acceptance that we are already in this proper stage of, or we are already prepared of the uncertain and the unknown. So this stage is characterized by ages 60 to 70 years old and beyond. Okay? Most of the time, we describe this stage as full maturity or in full maturity. Okay? As I've said, because after all those things na pinagdaanan natin, of course, we have our own learnings. We have our own process of learning what we have been through, and then eto na, spiritual stage tayo. Ito yung stage, by the way, that we come into harmony in our relationship with people, family, friends, and more importantly, with God. Okay? That's why we have the term spiritual stage. By the way, kung yung kanina, we use the term critical stage, yung statement stage. Ito naman is described as the most crucial stage. Why crucial? It is being explained by the following. Number one, it is the time by which we need to confront the reality of death, end time, or our personal end time event. Okay, the reality of death. We need to face the reality of death, and we need to face and accept closures in our life. And then, as I've said, it is also in preparation to this personal end life event. This stage by which we personally focus ourselves into our own union with our Creator. As I've said, the reality of death. But more importantly, this is also the stage by which we need to accept that our journey should end with Christ in eternity. Okay? So, crucial dahil mga end time ang ating focus dito. Okay? So, according to Matthew in his Gospel, Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30, it says, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." So, dapat dito tayo kumakapit kung anong mga promises ng ating Panginoon, kung ano yung pinagkakatiwalaan natin, dito natin maging realistic sa mga bagay-bagay na pinaniniwalaan ng tao. I also remember, I'm not sure of this chapter in John 14, 2 to 4, when the Lord assures His disciples when He said, "In my Father's home, there are many places. I will go ahead because I will prepare a place for you. Then I will come back to you because I want you to be with me in my Father's house." It's always a source of inspiration while I'm into trouble. This Gospel of John actually helps me a lot in my process. That there's always eternal peace for everyone. Okay? So, as I've said, napaka-importante itong 4 stages of human development dahil dito natin mini-measure, dito natin binibase yung ating process of growing up. Dito natin tinitingnan kung alin ba sa buhay natin, sa journey of life natin, yung tinatawag natin the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the most important thing is that dapat ang ending, naka-ending tayo ng maganda. Okay? So, as I go through from this morning until this afternoon, I'd like you to imagine or paste these stages into your background, because time to time you need to look back into these different stages as we go through in our retreat the whole day. Okay? So, tinutumbok natin yung sinasabi ko, objective natin. Personal, for our personal growth and maturity. Number 2, because we are preparing ourselves to be ordained ministers. And we will be managing people, managing congregation. We will be relating with the people who are sick, people who are good, and people who are bad, who have their own experiences in life. So it's important to know this process, because we need to deal the experiences of people as a minister, as an ordained minister. Okay? Thank you. We will have a short break. Okay, I hope you're done with our short break. Stretching lang yung break na yun. Okay? So, the next items, I will be talking to you about 3 things. I will talk to you about from sunrise to noontime, relating it into our personal experience, our personal life. And then second, I will be talking to you about noontime to sundown. Okay? So that's from early adulthood to midlife transition. And third is, I will talk to you about sundown to nightfall. Okay? So parang mas easier natin maintindihan yung these different stages. I will be using negative human experiences that's actually happening para matumbok natin kung ano yung mga changes nitong mga different items na ito. Okay? Just like, for example, item number 1, from sunrise to noontime. Don't forget to remember always the movement of the sun. Okay? As I've said, it rises early, it reaches at noontime, But it it won't stop there at noontime. That the sun won't stop in his sunshine. That the sun doesn't stop giving that bright sunshine to the world, to all of us. The sun doesn't stop there at noontime giving sunlight to everyone. No. From noon, the sun starts to fall, and it stops during nightfall. Okay? So, from sun rises to noontime. First, this is described by the following terms, or this is described by the following. Number one, during birth, from 0 to 6 years old. Psychology describes this experience as the childhood orientation, or the early childhood orientation. Just take note, it's from 0 to 6 years old. Why 0 to 6 years old? Because a child, when he reaches the age of 7, papasok yung tinatawag nating age of reason. Meaning to say, it is at this time where a child already knows how to judge what is good and what is right. Oh, no. What is good and what is bad. So, from 0 to 6 years old. This is the time that a child totally depends on the guidance, nurturance of the elders, or her or his parents. Number 2, from 0 to 6 years old, it is also at this time that this image of God that we wanted to form into the psyche of the child, it is also at this point of time that this image of goodness, this image of God has already been shattered or broken. Just for example, how would you react or imagine a child between 4, 5, 6 years old or 3 years old, younger, experiences or witness a father and a mother fighting? Okay? It is another example. What would happen to a child who experience abuse or physical abuse by his parents, most especially coming from his father or her father? How would you expect a child on the process of growth at the age of 4 or 5, she experiences molestation sexually by her own father or from an elder in the family? Okay? So, this image of a God that we wanted to imprint into the psyche of a child is more or less shattered. Ito yung time na ito yung time wherein yung tinatawag nating woundedness or brokenness of a child starts. And most especially when these children experience this kind of abuse coming from their very own elders, from the family, because elders are supposed to protect children from these abuses, mismo nanggagaling sa kanila. Sila mismo ang source of all these abuses. So, a child, whether you like it or not, a child has to create or to, a child, whether you like it or not, creates his own defenses or defense mechanism on how to defend his own self. But psychologically, this is the start of his personal pain inflicted by his own parents. Okay? And also, if I may add, dito rin magsimula yung insecurities ng child, especially a child who has been abandoned by his own parents, or a child who has been deprived of his little joys in life. You promise her a manika, hindi mo nabilhan. You promise a child anything, and you just forget it. You promise a birthday party, walang nangyari. Or maybe a child simply witnessed you drunk at home at nagwawild, and so on and so forth. So these are manifestations or examples of brokenness of a child. Okay? So, after that, as the child grows up, dito magsimula yung kanyang longing for his own identity. Who am I? Where am I going? How to get there? And so on and so forth. So dito magsimula yung search ng kanyang personality or developing his own personality and also his identity as a child of God. Okay? So can you imagine trying to develop for himself all these ideals in life, at the same time, yun ang actual real experience ng isang child while growing up. Okay? And number 4, 3 years ago, by the way, I mentioned this to those who attended also my retreat, that all of us as children, we are all products of our own pasts. Whether you like it or not, we are products of our own pasts. Okay lang kung yung may mga kabataan na napakaganda ang kanilang past. For sure, meron silang, hindi sila masyadong magkakaroon ng conflict or personal crisis. But those children who underwent to different sorts of brokenness coming from the family, what do you expect them as they grow and trying to establish themselves as a person? Okay? So that's why, na-mention ko nga ito before, the problem right now in our world is that itong mga matanda, sila ngayon ang nagbibinata. So, sinabi ko rin na, be like a child, but don't act childish. Kaso lang, di natin maiwasan, kabataan na mayroong hardships from the childhood as they grow up, talagang may mga tinatawag na yung kung anong namimiss natin sa childhood, paglaki natin, dito lalabas ang minention ko kaninang monkey business or unfinished business crisis. Anyway, tuloy natin. Okay? So number 2, from noontime to sundown, meaning from early childhood to midlife transition. Okay? So this particular stage is being described by the following. Letter A, settling down. B, time to enjoy life's achievement or fulfillment. C, confirmation of personal identity. And then D, this is the time by which we celebrate one's accomplishment, self-establishment. So, ang edad nito is between 25 to 45. Take note, may kasabihan na life begins at 40 to 45. Because ito yung time, 40, 45, na we need to assess our own fulfillment and accomplishment in life. Problem is, kung meron tayong namimiss sa stages in the past, ito yung time after establishing yourself, ito din yung time na there are people hinay-hinay, binabalik-balikan ang mga missing link. Binabalik-balikan ang mga bagay-bagay na hindi masyadong napagdaanan in the childhood. Andito din, said, pumapasok ang mga personal crisis and conflicts. Okay? So, what do I mean by settling down? I mentioned a while ago, this is the time at early adulthood na you come to think seriously of your future. Either gusto ko bang ma-ordain or not. Magpapari ba ako o mag-aasawa o hindi. But settling down this is the time that you need to decide for your life in the future. Okay? So, it's beyond marriage. It's either you commit yourselves to the church, or you commit yourselves to family. Number 2, or letter B, time to enjoy life's fulfillment or achievement. Ito din yung stage wherein after studies and working and looking back, meron kang naipon, meron kang fruits of your hardships in work. Ito din yung time to acknowledge yourself and recognize your effort. Sabi ko kanina, the term to describe it for me is celebration of life. Na after those process of growing up, education, achievement, work, married or not, ito yung time wherein you look back and celebrate and say, oh, what a life. Thank you, Lord. If you still remember the Lord, thank you, Lord. Okay? Achievement, celebration of life. C is confirmation of your personal identity. This particular item goes especially to those people who are from the beginning of their awareness of their own person, na hindi sila sure sa kanilang identity. This is the time, the stage wherein they confirm their own personhood and their own identity, who they are in the presence of the people, who they are in the presence of God. Confirmation. And lastly, well, na-describe ko ito kanina, accomplishments, celebration, and recognition. Okay? So, after you establish yourself, you need to assess your own personal life. Pero, nasa 25 to 40, 45 years old ka pa rin at this stage. Okay? So, remember that life begins at 40. Titingnan natin yan on the next item na i-describe natin. Okay. Tuloy-tuloy na lang natin to kasi mag-break na tayo after this. From sundown to nightfall. Kanina, I emphasized it when I told you, take note, the sun won't stop at noon. The sun won't stop at noon. In other words, kung ano bang achievement natin or accomplishment natin sa buhay natin, whether you like it or not, that life would remain in there forever. Okay? As the sun goes up, reaches its peak at night, reaches its peak at noontime. Take note, after noontime, hinay-hinay yan. Hinay-hinay, slowly but surely, it falls down. Just like our very own life. Childhood, adulthood, early adulthood, we establish ourselves. And then, we come into the peak of our accomplishment in life. Either personal, spiritual, or physical. The most important thing to realize is that that kind of life also doesn't stop there. After that, that life has to slowly but surely has to fall down into its proper destination. Okay? And kanina, ang tawag natin dito sa life na ito yung spiritual stage. Don't forget that. Okay? This is the time of reconciliation. This is the time by which, if you have been separated from your own God, this is also the time to personally realize seriously that you need a God in your life. Okay? Maybe in your past life, past stages, yes, you know God, you have God, maybe God only in your mind. But this time, in your spiritual stage, it is the time by which you make your own personal relationship with God. Whether you like it or not, because life has to fall down towards its final destination. Okay? So, this stage is characterized by the following. Okay? Getting ready and being prepared for the uncertain and the unknown. Okay? One time, I would like to share this with you. Pumunta ata ako sa mall one time, matagal na. Pero napansin ko sa labas ng mall, marami mga standby, mga teenagers, kabataan. Pero I've noticed there was one of them na medyo matanda na. Pero kung sino yung siyang pinakamatanda, siya yung nagdamit. Ano bang yung style noon na t-shirt, na loose na mga t-shirt, and then nakasombrero na parang siyang, ano bang terms ito? Jeff Rocks ba, no? Hip-hop. Hip-hop na kabataan or bagets. Very obvious kasi grupo sila, pero siya lang, obvious sila as a group na teenagers, pero siya lang nag-iba. At very noticeable siya dahil sa lahat ng kabataan nagkumpul-kumpul doon, siyang pinaka-groovy sa lahat, obviously dahil sa kanyang damit. And I remember that experience when I talk about this noon to nightfall, because there are people that instead of being matured in their faith life experience, ito yung time na papasok ang stress, fear, unreadiness, unpreparedness of what's in there. What is there in my final destiny? Dahil ayaw pang i-confront ang reality of the uncertain, ang reality of the next stage of life. Oh, forget it. I need to go back into that stage wherein I enjoy that particular life. That's why, sabi ko kanina, ang problema, ang mga matatanda ngayon ay nagbibinata. Yun yung example of unfinished business. That instead of growing more mature as expected with your stage, pero hindi ka ready at umaayaw ka dahil you are afraid of what's in the next stage. So much easier for you mag-escape sa reality, you some kind of cover up your own life by living a life of somebody, a teenager, for example. So therefore, it creates some kind of tension in your life. Hindi siya created by somebody, some people. It is you. It is you who created that particular situation for your life. Okay? Example lang yan. I just remembered that experience dahil sa description ko dito. Okay? So, number one, we really need to have a sense of acceptance. Acceptance of where you are right now at the moment. Pag wala kang acceptance sa inyong own reality, dito magsimula ang iyong crisis. Dito magsimula ang inyong confusion. Believe you me. Okay? Write it down. Acceptance. If you are already at this particular age, face reality. Face the music. Well, that's nature. That's the gift of aging. That's a gift of life. Hindi naman pwedeng as you grow old, mag-decide ka lang you want to go back to childhood. And that's the problem right now. Pati mga government officials natin, ang dami mga nagbibinata. Okay? So, it's good to realize that. Number 1, life starts at 40. At the age of 40, ibig sabihin, that's the time after all those stupidity in your life in the past. This is the time by which you need to be serious now because life starts at 40. Yan ang ibig sabihin sa term, life begins at 40. Hindi ibig sabihin ng life begins at 40, ito yung time na magsimula ang life sa mga mga foolishness. Okay? So, life begins at 40. This is the time by which you accept your own reality in life. Like it or not, accept it. But if you are able to accept your stage of life, that's the start of your rejoicing and fulfillment. For example, dami mga issues tungkol sa white hair. There are some people na pag nakita yung white hair, oh my goodness, ano-ano nang bibilin, ano-ano nang ginagawa dahil naratulas na, may white hair na ako, ano bang nangyari sa akin? Hey guys, take note, stop it. Why? Accept it, that you are already starting your own life. Because life starts at 40. Yung white hair manifestation lang yan. You can cover up that white hair, pero wag na namang maging source yan ng problema mo. Problemahin mo pa yung simpleng part of nature yan, naka-white hair ka na. Acceptance. Okay? Anyway, marami tayong example dyan. And then, after acceptance at 40, next is preparedness at 45, midlife, transition, at mga tinatawag natin sa mga girls nating menopausal period. Ito yung big changes, hindi lang sa physical, kundi psychological na lifestyle ng man or woman who are growing, mature. On the other side, ito din yung time, on the other hand, at 45, midlife, ito din yung time that we are expected by the community, that we are now growing mature in our own experience. And these people rely so much on us, trusted us, because of that particular experience that we have. Remember, because age is a gift. Remember that always. And we reach this particular age, ibig sabihin, thanks be to God, I'm still alive today. And being alive today, it presupposes that after acceptance, because you reach at the age of 45. At 45, meaning to say, you are growing more mature now within yourself, in your relationship with others, and in your relationship intimately with God. Okay? That's the positive side of this midlife transition. Third, awareness of its changes or transition to reach 50. When you reach that age of 45, yung pananaw mo, vision mo, dapat nakatutok to rin. That after 45, it doesn't stop there. It goes through until 50 and beyond. Acceptance. Okay? So, number 4, avoid a repeat of the unfinished business na i-describe natin kanina. Yan yung point na gusto kong ito yung point na gusto kong maiwasan natin, going back into the former life, unfinished business, and creating some monkey business in the past. That's why, sabi ko, mas marami mga matatanda ang nagbibidata. Sabi ko nga, be like a child but don't act childish. Number 4, na-mention ko na ito, avoid a repeat of the unfinished business. And at 55, you are entering mid adulthood insecurities and fear. Na-mention ko na rin ito at 55 and beyond, dito na papasok yung fear. Fear, anxiety, stress. Kung hindi ka settled sa sarili mo, sa stage, the present stage ng inyong human development, pag hindi mo tanggap, so therefore, hindi ka ready kung anong mangyayari next. So therefore, dahil uneasy ka looking at the future, mas easier ang looking back. And you start acting like you were a 20, 25 years older again. By the way, take note of this. Between the age of 40, 50, a little bit 55, dito magsimula ang broken homes, broken families, broken promises in marriage. And most, according to statistics, ang dahilan dito is unfinished business. Marami rin mga experiences, maraming explanations sa unfinished business. Basta simple lang na pagdating sa time at this age of 50, 40, instead na napaghandaan mo na ipaghanda mo na yung sarili mo sa pinapasok mong stage, may mga times na mas easier babalikan kung anong nakaraan. And sa statistics natin, itong ages na ito, dito pumapasok ang itong klaseng crisis. Broken families, nagkawatak-watak na mga pamilya dahil naging irresponsible si father or si mother. But most certainly, ang pinaka-reason dito is unfinished business, doing monkey business. Sabi ko nga, dahil nga may mga stages before na namimiss mo. For different reasons, namimiss mo at mas easier siyang babalikan kasi looking forward and prepare yourselves to the next life. Okay? So, take note of that. Maraming cases na darating sa inyo later on as a priest. Darating at darating ang mga ganitong bagay. Let me have some kind of recap in order for us to continue going down deeper into the process of our journey through life or life's experiences to the different stages that we need to go through. We had the following. We use as analogy, we use the movement of the sun, and then we relate ourselves into the movement of the sun. First, we describe into our human experience that there is the sun that shines early in the morning, and the sun continues to go up until it reaches its peak, or it reaches its peak on noontime. But as I have said, the movement of the sun, like the movement of our journey, doesn't stop there because it's your zenith, because it's your highlight. We need to realize and accept the fact that after the sun, tinumbok niya ang noon time, hinay-hinay din mag-move ang sun going to its nightfall. And ang ating comparison ng ating life is that also on the first stage, we had our own sunrise. And we use the term to describe it as our athlete stage. Athlete or active stage. From infancy, early childhood, adolescent, educational, or our education, and establishing our early adulthood. And then, second, we relate ourselves into the second set of movement of the sun. From noontime to sundown. That's also our comparison in our life is our early or from our early adulthood to midlife transition. Thus, we were able to share with you the following ideas or realities that this number 2 item consists on or characterized by our settling down of ourselves to marriage, to single blessedness, as some people use the term to describe their own personal journey, committing themselves to God, like you who are preparing for your future and looking forward to an ordained life or ordained life in the ministry of the church. Then, we continue. This stage is also characterized by enjoying life's fulfillment and achievement. Kung anong na-achieve natin sa journey natin after we graduated from our education, ito yung ini-establish natin yung sarili natin immediately. And then, confirmation of our personal identity, we make sure and we are confident to that na through we come to know our own personality, our own identity as a person in society. And then, accomplishment of self-establishment, and so on and so forth. So, ages of this stage is those people who are 25 years old going up to 40 or 45. Okay? And the third is, again, the movement of the sun. From sundown to nightfall. So, dito yung sinasabi nating the sun is not fixed during noontime. The sun during noontime, blaring ang kanyang pag-spot ng kanyang tama ba? Sun shyness, I don't know what's the term. Nakatutok ang shyness quotation ng sun at noontime. But reality is after that the sun becomes or the sun after shining its zenith at noon, it slowly and surely moves down to its nightfall. And then the comparison into ourselves is, it is also the time for us to get ready to the, ano ba yung term ng ginagamit natin? Yung time na sinasabi, I'm using the term, we are moving right now in accepting our journey towards the uncertain and the unknown. Some psychologists use the term to describe this stage as the stage by which man has to venture into the unknown and into the uncertain. I remember one of my professors in psychology before used to describe our fears is when he said, we should only be fearful of our uncertainties. We should only be fearful of the unknown and the uncertainties in life. Dapat daw doon tayo natatakot dahil hindi natin alam kung anong meron. Pero dapat hindi tayo matatakot kung anong meron ang sarili at hindi dapat matatakot anong nakapaligid sa sarili natin. The here and the now. That's the term they used to describe it. Okay? Tuloy ko lang. And then, ito yung time na we make sure na magkakaroon tayo ng acceptance. Acceptance and understanding of the process na pinagdaanan ng isang journey ng buhay ng tao. Okay? Pag walang acceptance, understanding, dito ka magkakaroon ng dito mag-start ang mga personal conflicts, crisis personal, crisis sa relationship with others, at lalo na dito din magkakaroon ng confusion about your understanding between your relationship with God. Okay? Tinatawag natin nga itong the spiritual stage in one's life. At dito na stage na to, ito yung what was the description sa age between 55, 60, 75 and beyond. So ano bang dapat meron dito sa stage na to? Harmony, unity within oneself, confidence, and more importantly, dapat build up ang ating relationship between others and relationship with God. Okay? So far, yun ang pinagdaanan natin this morning. Ang remaining sessions natin, I will deal with you on for a while. Okay. We will be dealing with our saan ba yung hinanda kong kopya? Ito. We will be dealing also about, I think, 3 items. First, on the transition period or the midlife stage. Dito magsimula ang midlife crisis. And then, next is about unhealthy signs and manifestations of cover-ups. As much as possible, I would like to make this session a little bit deeper this time. Palalaliman natin konti yung ating description sa mga pangyayari sa ganitong stage na ito. Kasi dito dapat yung hindi lang taking it as a learning session o what happened to our life and dapat yung tayong background, kundi importante ito sa akin dahil aside from our age at the moment, importante ito sa ating lahat dahil kailangan meron tayong vision on what are the things that we need to know about this time in our life. Midlife transition, midlife crisis, before we enter into the harmonious stage of spirituality, relationship with God. Okay? So sabi ko nga, I'll try to do my best na palaliman natin sila konti. And last item is about coping up mechanisms. What shall we do? Anong gagawin natin? Anong dapat meron tayo? Parang panangga. Anong dapat meron tayo? Not just our knowledge about all these things, about all this process, kundi anong dapat meron tayo itinanim dito sa loob natin na pagdating ng panahon, dahil nga preparedness nga pala ito, anong dapat meron from our knowledge and experience, dapat meron tayong tinatawag na ways on how to cope up into these processes sa buhay natin. Anong dapat gagawin sa mga kapatid, for example, na medyo instead of going through the whole process ay paatras ang direksyon ng buhay. Instead of confronting what is life ahead, may mga kasamahan tayong mangyayari later on na paatras ang direksyon ng life dahil hindi ako ready, ayoko pa, marami pa akong dapat gagawin, may mga bagay pa akong hindi nagagawa, and so on and so forth. So dito natin ma-measure o mabibase yung ating tinatawag na personal maturity or growth process kung may nangyayari ba sa atin pagdating ng panahon na ito. Okay? So, i-enumerate ko lang later on yung mga bagay-bagay na dapat natin malaman at matutunan. Our shield on what to do for ourselves pagdating sa stage na ito. Okay? And lastly, after that, meron akong set of questions kung anong o saan ka ngayon, where are you now in your relationship with God. I don't expect you to be growing mature na tumbok na ang yung maturity ng yung relationship with God. It has something to do with spirituality. And spirituality has to continue its journey. Una-una, naintindihan man natin yung tinatawag nating spirituality. Kasi dapat doon tayo nag-anchor. Dapat doon tayo nag-angkla na whatever happens, very strong ang aking faith life experience because meron akong mature na relationship with God. Okay? So, that will be our ingredients of our session. Okay? So, relax or sit back and relax. So, first item, the transition period or the midlife stage. Then, some other people use the term to describe this stage as the midlife crisis. Okay. As usual, gaya kailang umaga, I won't be describing the whole thing, but tumbukin ko na lang yung experiences of us, people who fall into this particular stage in our life. Okay? So, the transition period. Transition is a movement from our warrior stage. Warrior stage, it's the stage wherein we establish ourselves. And then going through the midlife stage or midlife crisis. Maybe nagamit yung term na midlife crisis nito dahil it's more on description on the actual real negative experiences kasi dito natin madidescribe, makakuha yung description sa ganitong stage. Okay? So, the transition period. Number 1, experience is there is a deep psychological changes or there is a deep psycho-spiritual changes in a person going through this particular stage. Deep psycho-spiritual changes. Take note. That is, the term describing this stage is not just deep spiritual changes. Wala pa yan. But it has something to do with our own life's behavior. That's psychology. That's why we use the term deep psycho-spiritual changes dahil included dito ang kabuuang pagkatao natin. Okay? So, what are those psycho-spiritual changes? Ibig sabihin pala, from where we came from, hindi pa natin masyadong tumbok yung tinatawag nating spiritual maturity. There are people at this age, at this stage na feeling nila very close to God na sila. There are people na medyo sa kanilang spiritual life total and perfect yung kanilang faith, hope, life, experience with God. And then, pagdating sa time na they need to go through a certain kind of a challenge, na-challenge yung kanilang faith. For example, faith in God, dahil may pinagdaan ng problema, personal, nagkakaroon sila ng doubt. And then, instead of holding on to God, must they hold more on to their doubts, trying to understand every aspect of the negative experience dahil nga may crisis, may problema. So instead of coping up or holding on to those faith, life experience in a God whom they believe, parang nagkakaroon sila ng doubt o lumuluwag kunti yung kanilang pagkapit sa kanilang faith in a God in their lives. Okay? So, magkakaroon ng, in effect, magkakaroon siya ng sense of confusion and internal chaos. Internal chaos, I have just described it a while ago, because that includes hopelessness. That includes yung feeling mo bang you're all alone in your struggle, that you are all alone, solo mo, pasan mo ang mundo. Lots of people used to describe this stage as, I don't know what's happening to me. Pasan ko ang mundo. Where is God in my life right now? The moment you hear these people expressing themselves this way, they are into these deep psycho-spiritual changes or transformation within their present experience in life. Okay? Ang dami mga descriptions na ginagamit ang tao. But, tumbok yan, sure yan. They are into a deep psycho-spiritual changes. I don't think so kung makaiska po tayo nito. Darating at darating talaga yan. Why? It's part and parcel of the whole life experience of a person. Sabi nga ng iba, you cannot grow mature without challenges. Kung wala kang pinagdaan ng challenges sa buhay mo, how can you be sure na medyo very strong na ang iyong pagkatao? So, dami mga sinasabi sa Bible on that context. Okay? So, I'm trying to describe deep psycho-spiritual changes. Worst pa nga ito, aside from people doubting God or the presence of God, doubting their own faith in God, worst dito is when people comes into conclusion that really God is not true. There is no God, and so on and so forth. The moment a person bumitiw siya sa kanyang faith, life, experience in the context of God, nako, what do you expect? What do you expect? Sabi nga ng iba, expect the worst to come. Pag nangyari yun, ang tanong ko sa inyo, kung mangyayari yan sa inyo, saan kayo kumakapit? Okay? Binitiwan mo na. Because naging hopeless ka. From your own little doubts, sinasakyan mo pa, nag-ride on ka sa doubts mo. Wala ka ng prayer life. Wala ka ng tiwala. Oo nga, paano ka mag-pray kung wala ka ng tiwala? And then, ultimately, bitiw ka na lang. Lahat. But life is a continuous experience. Life is a continuous process. Dagdag at dagdag at dagdag ang challenges na mangyayari. Pag napuno ka na sa challenges, sino at saan ka kakapit o kumakapit? Reflect on that. Okay? So, dapat, anyway, darating yan later on. Anong dapat nating gagawin? Okay? So, that's letter A. A sense of confusion and internal chaos about his own self. Of course, normally, confidence mo dito natitimbag. Confidence mo sa sarili mo, nawawala. Confidence mo sa inyong relationship with other people, magda-doubt ka na. If these people truly takes good care of you, and so on and so forth. And then, makakaroon ka na ang daming conclusion. It is as if kaaway mo ang mundo. Okay? So, letter B. Weariness and dryness. What do we mean by weariness and dryness? Yung na-establish mong confidence within yourself, with others, and more importantly, with God. It's a challenge yun. It's a challenge yun. In a way na, ano bang weariness sa Tagalog? Weary. Nawalan ka ng pag-asa. Tama ba? I hope, am I right? Yeah, hopelessness. And then you feel everything is dry. Nawala ka ng ganang magdasal. Maybe up to the point na itatago mo lang ito dahil takot kang lalabas sa seminary. By the way, during our time, we have the term, during my formation in the seminary, we have a time, actually it is a must, yung tinatawag naming regency. Bakit may sa RC seminary? By the way, I've been in the seminary almost half of my life before I was ordained a priest. Dahil sa seminary ako nag-high school, 4 years yon. And then pagdating sa college, philosophy years, I spent 5 years in philosophy dahil may 1 year akong nag-immersion sa mga Muslim area sa Mindanao. So, 4 plus 5, ilan na? Siyam. Then, after sa college, proper theology study. Sa seminary pa rin, Faculty of Theology. That's another 4 years. And then, may isa pang extra 1 year na tinatawag naming regency period. A regency period, if I might share it with you, personally, importante sa akin yon. Why? Kasi pagdating dito sa crisis, is kind of turmoil na darating sa buhay natin, magkakaroon ka ng doubts to the point na pagdududahan mo na yung sarili mo. Am I really invited? Am I really called by God to become a priest? Why is it that all these things are happening to me? Why all these doubts? Why all these temptations? Why all this immersion into sin and sinfulness? And so on and so forth. I have to be honest with you. Kasi you are all preparing for the priesthood. So, sa seminary formation namin, pwede kang bigyan ng regency kahit sa philosophy years ka pa, college. Or, pwede mong i-take yung regency 1 year before your ordination. Sa theology yun. Okay. Yung aking 1 year, I spent it into a SPFY. SPFY is spirituality. SP. Spiritual pastoral. spiritual pastoral formation year. Okay? So, there's a sense of balance sa pinagdaanan kong regency. I went through to a spiritual formation, intense na ito kasi in preparation. Kasi after this, mag-ordain na ako if I commit myself. So, ibig sabihin, you are expected. When you say no, you are expected. More or less, na pinagdaanan mo na lahat ito. So, ang aking regency was not just spiritual. It was a regency for spiritual and pastoral formation. Well, kasi hindi pwedeng mag-separate yun eh. Yung spiritual life mo at yung pastoral life mo. Kasi yung spirituality mo, yun yung mag-push, mag-drive sa inyo, mag-motivate sa inyo to go on into the pastoral life in the ministry. So I took that regency for 1 year. That's why meron akong 4 years in high school, 5 years in philosophy, and another 5 years sa theology. So ilan yun? Ilang years na yun? 14 years. And then after sa 14 years, na-assign na ako sa parish. Mga magagandang nagawa ko, immersion with people, happy ako. But again, crisis comes to my path. So actually hindi crisis, dumating yung time that I was invited for a further study. Ito na, further study. Una, yes, sa Ateneo, una yung formation on basic ecclesial community. 1-2 years lang yon. Dito nga ako sa Sacred Heart Formation House dito sa Novaliches, ang Jesuit Formation House nila. After that, bumalik ako. I formed BEC programs sa Diocese of Dumaguete and so on and so forth. Then after that, I was invited to another formation for 4 years, Ateneo again. That was, dito ko nakuha ito. It's a collaboration between Ateneo and anong school na to? Adamson University. Ang course is ito, sinishare ko sa inyo yung Enneagram last 3 years ago, at ito, part ito sa nakuha kong training. It's on psycho-spirituality formation. Psycho-spirituality and pastoral management. Ang psycho-spirituality, I took that subject dito sa Ateneo, at yung pastoral management, I took that sa Adamson. Kasi meron pa akong dagdag na MA program. Why I'm sharing this to you? First of all, because you are seminarians. You are preparing seriously for a lifetime commitment to become an ordained minister. And that's very, very important to you. Huwag niyong sabihin, hindi yan para sa amin, Father. Hindi yan para sa akin, Father. Ang bata-bata ko pa. No need for that. No, it's wrong. It is an opportunity for you at this time that I'm able to share these thoughts, learnings, and ideas to all of you today. So don't entertain the thought, saka na yan, hindi importante yan sa akin. Wag muna, I'm still young. I need to study more on my Bible. I need to study more on my spirituality and so on and so forth. Believe you me, you need this. Okay? So, may pinagdaanan akong life na hindi ko alam. That is why, sabi ko kanina, nakabuhol-buhol yung aking life while I was in formation. Doubts crop up. Nawalan ako ng confidence sa sarili ko. Nawala na yung inspiration ko ng invitation, calling from God to study theology and become a priest and so on and so forth. Why? Kahit hindi ko napagdaanan ang bagay na ito. Wala pa ako sa midlife that time. Pero wala akong idea anong merong midlife that time. Darating at yan, naagapan. Thanks be to God. So all these things, learnings, nakuha ko yan sa aking, pari na ako that time. Pari na ako. Further study ko sa Ateneo. Okay? So ito yon. Tuloy natin. Letter C. Yung restlessness and anxiety. Restlessness is translated in Tagalog as hindi ka na mapapakali. Am I right? Parang everything is less meaningful to you. In fact, time will come that you will question yourself, why am I here at such? Why am I here at St. Andrew's Theological Seminary right at this moment in my life? Why? What's my purpose? Ano bang meron? Is it true that you are calling me, Lord, to become a priest? And so on and so forth. Restlessness, and lalo na ang anxiety. What is anxiety in Tagalog? Anxiety is magkakaroon ka ng fears. Magkakaroon ka ng takot sa mga commitment. Like your commitment to study at such. Magkakaroon ka ng, in fact, maging source ito ng personal crisis mo later on. Pag hindi, in short, pag hindi mo sa i-confront itong mga changes, psychological changes, psycho-spiritual changes sa life mo ngayon, and you just hide them dahil ayaw mong malaman, pag wala kang ganoon, a person na umaalalay sa'yo, we call that spiritual director, din itago mo lang sa inyong mga formators dyan, oh my goodness, believe you me, kayo ang talo later on. And dagdag ko lang, especially, nagkakaroon ka ng konsensya dahil pala may sponsorship ka na nagpapaaral sa iyo sa dito sa SATS. And then, ayaw mo i-confront ang mga psychosexual changes sa inyong life dahil ayaw mong i-confront ang mga bagay na ito dahil natakot ka. And you have that sense of utang na loob, so okay lang. Tuloy ang ligaya, total matatapos din ito eh. Ma-ordain ako, happy ang aking benefactor, happy din ako. Oh my, you are into cover up. Cover up is, you cover up all these things and you appear, everything's fine with me. Especially, walang somebody who plays a spiritual advisor to you na mag-cater sa mga ganitong bagay. Precisely, ito ang ginagawa ng isang spiritual director, spiritual advisor, dahil siya yung umaalalay sa buhay ng bawat seminarians who are preparing for ordination. I would honestly in-emphasize ko ito kasi feeling ko importante ito sa inyo. Hindi lang academics, hindi lang yung interpersonal relationship nyo sa bawat isa at sa mga teachers inyo. Importante ito personal. Why? Dito na involved ang iyong pananaw sa inyong spiritual life at life in the pastoral ministry later on when you become a priest. That's why ay pinagdaanan ko yan eh. At ayokong mangyayari sa inyo na wala kayong alam o wala kayong pakialam dahil darating at darating yan sa buhay ninyo. Believe you me. Okay? Ang daldal ko. Okay. Ano bang iba pa dito? Okay. An instant realization that death may come at any moment. By the way, wala ka pa doon sa spiritual stage. Pero yung thought about end time event, end of your personal life, end of your existence, end of your life at the moment, darating at darating yan. Maging part yan sa temptation ninyo at maging cause of your confusion, additional confusion sa inyong life. Okay? So dahil, although wala ka pa sa spirituality stage, darating yan dito at this stage yung even it's just a glimpse of death and the reality of death, it would cause you to be fearful about it. Okay? Ulitin ko, we are still describing negative reactions on this particular stage. Okay? And then, ang daldal ko, marami pa dito. F, powerlessness, hopelessness, turn into a cover-up or alcoholism as a cover-up. I would like to emphasize that. When you feel powerless and hopelessness, and then marami ka ng conclusion or judgment sa inyong crisis na pinagdaanan, here comes the sun. Anong next? Alcoholism problem. It comes to you as a so beautiful and nice invitation. Go on. Testing lang muna. Sarap nito. Ano ba ito? Ano ba sa Tagalog ito? Yung to forget all your troubles away. Ano na yan sa Tagalog? To forget all your troubles away. Ito muna. Tikim-tikim lang. Okay lang to. Pang-pass the time. Oh goodness. When you are into crisis, darating yan as a blessing to you. Then matuto ka nang mag-inom at feeling mo, ay ang sarap ng mga nakipag-inuman kay kasi you are able to relate with people and so on and so forth. Without you knowing it, you are falling now into a cover-up. Guys, take note of that. Write it down. Cover-up, 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 cover-up. This is a form of cover-up, psychological, sa inyong problema, krisis ng buhay. Pag hindi nyo na-control ang cover-up na tinatawag nating alcoholism, what do you expect? Well, immediately, makakasakit ka, and so on and so forth. But aside from the physical and body illness, magkakaroon ng psychological, psychological imbalance in your life. Okay, tuloy. So, alcoholism, it comes as a form of cover-up. Worst is if you fall into addiction. Of course, addiction is a way of coping up, negative. Pero pagdating sa alcoholism, it becomes worse. Mas worse ito kung ordained minister ka. I do drink, of course. Magaling akong uminom. Pero sabi nga, drink with moderation. Pero kung ang drinking habit mo, naging sabi nga, cover up sa sarili mo, na kahit mag-isa ka, you enjoy yourself drinking, something is wrong with you. Take note of that. When you drink for socialization, go for it. When you drink, dapat control mo sarili mo. Up to what limit ka lang, be honest with it. Okay? Kung kaya mo ang intake ng alcohol, ilang percentage, kung okay pa rin sa'yo, go for it. Yan ang na-master ko. Anyway, know your limit. That's very important. Okay? Next, anger. Take note, anger. Anger is not something negative, actually. Because anger is a reaction to something. And it's part and normal ways of our being as a person. It is a reaction into something. Pero naging problematic lang ang anger if you lose control of yourself at you ride on into your anger na to the point na you put that into action, that it creates some more conflict na hindi mo naagapan ang anger. Okay? So anger, when tinatago, regressed, it will turn into a high level of anxiety. And then, magkakaroon ka ng self-hatred. Of course, may self-hatred ka, mawala yung self-control and self-confidence. Why? Dahil nga, hinahayaan mo ang anger mo na magkukut-kut sa sarili mo. Okay? So, I think this is the last item. Guilty feelings, hurts, and the ability to accept change. Sabi nga, naging bato ka na. Ayaw mo nang, you won't listen anymore to your friends. You turn down people's invitation to be with you, to talk to you. Nawalan ka ng trust sa dabarkads mo. Nawala ka ng tiwala sa mga formators mo, and you are on your own. Maybe ang dahilan na ito dahil you are guilty of something. Guilty, yung kanina example ko, if you have an sponsor, you cover up everything, it is as if everything is alright, dahil ayaw mong ma-stop yung scholarship o studies mo, go on ka na lang because You wanted to achieve something. Parang ma-ordain, pare ako. Pero ay, meron kang problema na napakatindi na binabaliwala mo. You will not be happy in the priesthood. Mind you that. Kung you just kept on covering all these things at naging secret siya sa life mo, tinatago mo, dahil nga importante makalampas lang ko sa studies ko sa SATs, everything will be fine. No, it will not be fine. It's not heaven that you are going through. It's hell. Believe me. Take note of that. Okay? I think, ilang minutes na ba ako? I think, tapos na ko sa description on this first item. Transition period towards middle life and midlife crisis. Okay? So, we'll have a short 1 minute or 2 break. Parang gusto kong huminga muna. Sobra kong napapadala sa ating sharing. Thank you. A minute break. Okay, napapahaba ako kanina. Let's go back to our discussion. Thank you. So we have the next item, some unhealthy signs and manifestations of cover-up. So kanina, in-emphasize ko yung cover-up. So ito yung mga cover-ups, manifestations of cover-ups or unhealthy signs that you are into crisis. Number 1, tendency to abandon the inner self, yung inner being natin, and tend to get busy with other things, monkey business mostly, and other unhealthy business practices. Okay? Na-discuss ko to kaya ng umaga. Tutuloy-tuloy ko na lang dahil so tendency to abandon the inner self, wala ka nang pakialam sa sarili mo, and you try to do things just a cover up of your inner turmoil in your personal life. May studies ka, for example, importante may assignment ka sa scripture or sa theology. Ayaw mo na eh. Ano ang gagawin mo? Laro ka lang sa Google mo. I don't know if you are allowed to have your own cellphone sa SATs, pero malas kami sa time namin. Wala kaming mga ganong gadget. Ang pinaka-social naming gadget was only TV. Okay? So, we get all our knowledge from research. So, for example, pupunta kami sa malaking university sa San Carlos, mag-research kami, may assignment ka, so ano yung mga cover-up Ang mga cover up is instead of searching your assignments, doon ka mag-enjoy ka sa ibang mga magazines. You're just passing your time. Well, sign of unhealthy ways. That was during our time. Okay? Just an example of abandoning your inner self, and then because it's painful, it's challenging to you, you're not happy about it, cover up ka, maghanap ka ng ibang bagay wherein you can spend all your time. Cover up. Number 2, men and women seem too hard for them to let go of their youth, that most of the time they wanted to prove to people their own power and youthfulness. Kaya po, lumalabas dito sa stage na ito yung issue natin kaya umaga. I've been repeating to mention to you about broken promises, broken families, and so on and so forth. Kabit system. Dito yan, pumapasok yan. Ano bang dahilan sa mga bagay na ito? Because you are not honest or happy to confront your own where you are in your personal life. Ayaw mo, it's painful, facing reality, at ito ng edad ko, and so on and so forth. Psychologically, you wanted to prove to yourself na bata ka pa, kaya mo pa. Kaya ko pa ito, bata pa ako. So, anong tendency? Without you knowing it, ang tendency mo is going back to unfinished business ka na pala. Okay? Having youthful activities, having some relationship with younger people, dahil part lang yan sa relationship and so on and so forth, hindi mo alam na that particular relationship is driving you to a more confusing situation later on. Why? Because you wanted to prove that I am still young. Bata pa ako, kaya ko pa ito. Okay? So ayaw mo makigmingle sa mga kaedad mo, 45, 50, ayaw mo, but you describe yourself as, I am more comfortable with the younger people, and so on and so forth. So you get involved, you get serious in your relationship. Dahil, because you wanted to prove, kaya ko pa, bata pa ako, and so on and so forth. You are going against the flow of nature. Okay? Okay. Hado kanina dito pumapasok yung kaya ko pa, kabit system. It's part and parcel of a reality in the Philippines. Take note of that, at magpapari kayo, take note of all those realities na dapat meron tayong understanding sa sarili natin, paghahanda, knowledge, and application to our congregation or people whom we will be dealing later on. Okay? So, those two items, ayoko nang i-elaborate pa dahil very obvious. Sabi nga ng mga teachers ko noon in college, don't state the obvious. Okay? Sabi nga, alam na namin yan. Alright. So, we continue. Ito mahaba-haba ito, pero ito yung pinaka-importanting point natin before we end up. Coping up mechanisms, ways and means by which, after the knowledge that we are into that particular challenge in our life, that we are into that situation in our life's journey, dapat meron tayong shield, dapat meron tayong ways and means how to go through it. Okay, number 1, that's very important. Sabi nga, hang on to prayer. Kapit lang, Father. Ano yung mga terms sa mga kabataan? Yung usual expression natin, kapit lang, Besh. Di ba? Kapit lang, Father. Yung last year and the other year, tumitindi yung COVID. Almost every day, wala akong araw na hindi ko ma-message yung mga ganyan. Ano tawag nito? Kapit lang, hold on to God, matatapos din ito, and so on and so forth. So, ang dami mga expressions natin. Dami expressions because it's happening. Take note, number 1, prayer and meditation. Totoo yun, kapit lang. Saan ba tayo kumakapit? Of course, in our prayer. Because our prayer is our expression, inner expression of ourselves, the inner being into that somebody whom we believe that he is more powerful than us. Call him God, call him Allah, call him Shinto, call him Buddha. But he is one supernatural being whom you believe as more powerful than you. I'm describing to you what spirituality means. Spirituality is your acknowledgement that there is somebody out there more powerful than you, and he is in control of everything. Ang ginawa lang ng simbahan, yung religion, they define terms. They describe it by using some words and terms to describe this, and we come up with God as this supernatural being or somebody. So, he is known to us as God. Okay? So, there is a God, supernatural being who holds everything, and he is more powerful than you. So, as we relate to the supernatural being, we relate ourselves through prayer. Prayer is interpersonal relationship with this supernatural being whom we have known as G-O-D in our lives. That is God. So, yun. Kapit lang. Kanina, I asked you something. If you gave up, dahil ayoko na, suko na ako, if you gave up all these challenges in life, alam naman natin at the same time na darating at darating ang mga ganitong bagay. Because it's part and parcel of our life's experience, our journey. Look at the sun. It rises, noontime, tumbok, but he doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. It falls down to nightfall. Yun din ang process ng buhay natin. So kung if you gave up your hope and your faith life experience on the supernatural being, saan at sino ka kakapit ngayon? And the pandemic has proven to all of us that true, there is somebody out there whom we can make kapit because he is in control. Okay? So prayer and meditation as an expression of faith is necessary during this time of crisis. As I've said, ayoko na mag-describe dahil those 2 years past, pandemic, COVID, siya talaga ang nag-prove sa ating lahat, na we came to a point na we doubted about God's power to control all these crises, health issues. Pero look at us now. We survived. Why? Because there is this somebody whom we have known as God, the supernatural being who holds everything. That's faith. So, you need to relate yourself into this God in order for you to sustain your own personal crisis. Why? Because you come to conclusion that true, He is a supernatural power that holds everything. Prayer, meditation. Okay? Marami sana akong example sa meditation, but we are running out of time. Anyway, number 2, acceptance of one's reality. Nasabi ko na ito. Acceptance of one's reality and understanding life's different stages. And that's the purpose and objective of this retreat that I've been sharing to you. Okay? No more cover-ups. No more, easy-easy lang. No. Dahil kailangan i-confront natin every stage of life that comes into our way. Okay? So, acceptance of one's reality. Where are you now in your life's journey? And understanding life's different stages. Sabi nga na, alam na namin yan. Di ba? Alam na po namin yan, Father. Okay. So, acceptance one's reality. And be brave to confront it. Hindi pwedeng i-cover up lang, tago-tago lang, baliwalain dahil mawawala din yan. No, confront it. Kung wala kang magagawa, prayer, meditation. Okay? Sige. Number 3, preparedness. Ito yung third item na ginawa ko. Immediate coping up mechanism on personal crisis. Preparedness. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Preparedness, paghahanda, is important tool for acceptance of the following challenges like loneliness, abandonment, deprivation, old age, insecurities, death, reality of death, powerlessness, and hopelessness. Ang challenge dito is denying it. There are people, because hindi nila kayang i-confront, i-face ang ganitong stage, instead of going through and being prepared for it, sabi ko kanina, they just need to look back into their own stages in the past and then deal with reality with their own past. Behind the scene ng mga pangyayari, binabalik-balikan natin. Okay? Sabi nga, bahala na. Kung kukunin ako ni Lord, siya nang bahala. Basta may fulfillment ako sa mga bagay in the past. Okay? So, dapat tanggap natin at handa at napaghandaan ang mga bagay na darating. I've been talking about it dahil this is important tool, preparedness and acceptance, by the way, na itong issues on loneliness, insecurities, abandonment, may mga bagay na hindi mo na-achieve during childhood, some are things that are already in the past. Okay? Past. Tapos na yun. So, kung pwede mapaghandaan kung ano pang darating, ito yon. That includes powerlessness and hopelessness. Hopelessness is, lalo na kung challenge ito yung faith experience natin on that supernatural being. That's spirituality. Sige. And then, gusto ko lang i-insert itong pumasok sa isip kong question na ito. At this moment of time, imagine yourself 2 to 10 years from now, 5 to 10 years from now. You are now an ordained minister, a clergy, assigned in a congregation. Okay? And one day, 3 people, members of your congregation, went to your rectory. Umiiyak, humihingi ng tulong dahil may personal issue or conflict problem. Number 1, example, sumakabilang bahay si husband o si wife niya. How would you deal with that? That's a fact. It's a reality today. Number 2, may kabit ang nanay o ang tatay ko. Problema yan. Reality yan. How would you deal with that kind of situation? Okay? Don't just think of your theological and canon things about yung canon law natin ng simbahan, dapat i-apply natin. No. Look at the psycho-spiritual side of every person who is into this kind of situation. And take note, use your pastoral ministry experience on these issues. Number 3, yung tatay niya parang binata o bumabalik sa pagka-binata. Or ganito na lang, yung tatay niya or nanay niya parang bumalik sa pagkabata. Binata pa rin kung umasta. Nakakatawa, but these are real pastoral experiences of a clergy in every congregation. Take note. Sabi ko, pahabol ko lang to dahil hindi ko to siya na seriously think of sa aking mga questions later on. So, ano ang gagawin mo sa tatlong tao na yon? Advice mo, anong maging advice mo sa kanila? Ulitin ko, not in the context of canon law, or not just in the context of the canon law, but more so on the spiritual context of a person and its pastoral implication to the rest of the members of their family and congregation. So, we try to find ways of enhancing relationships with one another. Take note. But such relationships demand from each of us recognition, respect, and trust of the other person. We shall do this by developing attitudes and skills that respond to its need for identity, comfort, attachment, occupation, and inclusion. Summary nga ito sa sinasabi ko, but I need to explain it more. Okay? So, ito yon. In the following ways: identity by maintaining her self-esteem. Yung example ko kanina, just try to imagine them, and with this issue, dapat andun pa rin yung respect mo. Na bawat isa sa atin, magkanya-kanya tayong identity as a person. Respect her identity and maintain her self-esteem, okay, or self-confidence. Appreciating and preserving her life story, and then recognizing and celebrating her talents and achievements. That means recognition and acknowledgement of each person in their own identity. Okay? So, comfort by showing care and concern for her or for him. Lessening situations that may cause pain or anxiety. Contributing to a relaxed environment. Ibig sabihin, huwag mong pagalitan, intindihin mo. Okay? Sabi nga, show them comfort by acknowledging where they are in their own crisis situation. Listening, not just listening with your listening ear, but it's listening through your listening heart. And by then, you extend them comfort, not just acceptance and welcoming them, but you are comforting them. Okay, next. Attachment. Attachment is identifying yourself with them. Promoting trust in a relationship. It's very important. You need to make sure that they trust you, and by the fact that they come to you, they trusted you. Okay? So take note of that. Kailangan maipakita natin yung acknowledgement ng trust na yon. We acknowledge them by respecting them, listening to them, and giving our all and our time to their own situation. So promoting trust in relationship with her or with him by providing support in times of trouble. So this time, they are in trouble. So show to them that you are there for them. Okay? Occupation. Occupation by upholding her sense of worth. Yung self-worth, self-esteem dapat maipakita natin that we are respecting and we are lifting and holding them up just to affirm their identity. So occupation by holding her sense of worth, empowering her or him to use the skills and the knowledge she still has. Ibig sabihin, you need to be one with the person who is in crisis or in trouble. That sense of oneness, that you occupy that space in her because you wanted to help and to listen to her because she is in trouble. Okay? So, next, inclusion. What do we mean by inclusion? Support. In inclusion, dito nanggaling yung term na included. So, by supporting and sustaining her or him as he participates and contributes and shares to you her own situation. So you include them, make them feel that you are one in their own situation. A sense of support by sustaining her, that you are participating by listening and contributing your own giftedness to her, not just by listening, but you are contributing your advices to her. Okay? Okay, guys, we come to our last part. Hindi naman last part kasi kailangan pa kayo mag-sharing. Pero last item on my part. So we have our common destiny that we need to face. This is our own reality that we need to be a friend of. Our faith experience assures us of this fact, of this reality, that our common destiny, like it or not, is in heaven. Union with God, a place in my Father's house. According to John, the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 2 to 4, it says, "In my Father's house there are many rooms," or there are many places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the place where I am going. This verse of the Gospel from John assures me, assures you, assures all of us. There must be some kind of assurance to everyone that whether you like it or not, whether you deny it or not, this is our common destiny. In union or common destiny with God, our Father. Okay? And I think this assurance of this common destiny is not just an assurance for all Christians, but it is an assurance of all other people in the world. Muslim, they have their own common vision of a heaven. Jewish people, they also have their own vision of a union with God as Father, and so on and so forth. So, for all of us, Christians, this is our common destiny. This is our common destination. Heaven is the place prepared for us by our Heavenly Father. This is the assurance of no other else but Christ Himself. Try to feel every caption, try to feel every word, and try to feel every phrase in this verse of John 14, 2 to 4. And try to relate that into yourselves. Okay? It is not God, our Father, the supernatural being, who is the one assuring us to us today, whispering into our ears and into our hearts that I am with you in my Father's house. Whatever crisis, conflicts and challenges we are facing at the moment, we need to go through all these challenges and all these ups and downs in life in order for us to assure ourselves of this common destiny promised by Christ to all of us. And lastly, I do hope and pray that my sharing, our retreat, Lenten retreat today, gives you more important inspiration and direction in your life as a person and as an ordained minister later on. May this Lenten season be fruitful and meaningful to each one of us. Ask God to bless you and to inspire you using this reflection on how we relate ourselves into our different stages of our life as a human person. Okay? So dapat dito yung aking amen, amen, amen. So thank you so much, and may God guide us and bless us all. This is Father G.